Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Power Rangers Dino Fury episodes 4 through 6. So, surprisingly, the very first review of this did, overwhelmingly, better than I thought it could. So, I'm just like, okay, I guess keep rolling with this. So, Power Rangers Dino Fury, my thoughts of kind of episodes 4 through 6. It kind of feels like they're just dropping in a lot of stuff. Plus, also, I guess I have to retcon and finally understand now that the whole goop thing that I kept saying in the very first review, because there was so much to, God, they put so much, especially into these, 4 through 6 episodes. I'm just like, man, they have to just, they, slowed it down for the first 3 episodes, and then all of a sudden, plop, 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 plop. I don't think a lot of people, I don't think a lot of characters got their time in the sun, and they're just there. Again. So, I don't think I really overall, hate certain characters. But I also just kind of find certain characters to be irrelevant. There's some irrelevant characters here that should have actually not been irrelevant, aka Power Rangers both blue and black now. Yeah, we have 2 Rangers for the price of no fun that are just irrelevant. And, the Black Ranger looks cool with his helmet and spikes and whatever, but, I think what ends up happening in this show, if there isn't a new, fresh gimmick for a certain Power Ranger, like a certain hobby that they do, or something that they're involved in, some kind of job, if it's not a new, fresh thing, if it's not a new, fresh take, they don't take the time for this Ranger to do anything for them. Just me being honest, but if someone is a musician and it's well, hey, what are you gonna take with that hobby now that they know that this person is a musician? Well, we're just gonna have them go off and do a news report in some museum. That made a lot of sense. Again, we've now had 6 episodes where who is still Ollie? I'm he's just a person that exists. Javi, or I hope it's Javi. Is it JV? Javi? I want to say it's Javi, because good God, I don't know names really well. I'm horrible with names. But yeah, so the goop that I mentioned the first run is now Sporix. Whatever the goofy name that they have to put on things that, here's my thought process on Sporix. So, Sporix is a thing that you probably have to say a lot to help people understand what's going on in this show. And you have it to be this goofy name that is to, be, when you had, minions in the other seasons, they would be, Piranha Changa de Balang of the Stong. And they would be Smackalabalaklalang or Loogies or whatever thing. They would have these elongated, goofy names that really is just what? Why do I care? Sporix is like that. Man, if they could just cut that name in half and just call it S-Rex or S-Rix or something like that, to where really, you can just say, oh, this is S-Rix, and it's just oh, okay. So we don't have to say the whole goofy name every single time. And, I get Spores is, kind of, that probably, and, they wanted to put Rix in there, or Rex in there, to just kind of sound, I don't know, it was, that name, good God. Sporix Beast. Okay, it's just a meaningless name of stuff that doesn't need to have words to it, but like it does, and you have to really review something and have that name in it. Whatever. I have more problems about that than I do any of the other characters, but still, Blue and Black Rangers. What the heck are they? So, really, in the next 3 episodes, we mostly just care about Izzy because new, fresh take, new, fresh gimmick, and like Amelia, like has a story as well, but it has nothing to do with her gimmick, her hobby, her ghost hunting thing, which, like, I don't think we're ever gonna go back to that now. If we go back to it, I'll be surprised, but I just think that was a one-off thing. And if they go back to it, like I'll like just be like, great, they went back to it. Great. Like I was hoping like cuz that is like new fresh gimmick that should have been like a continuation, but weirdly we just have Amelia that just has this like Mighty Morphin like kind of episode, and here's my thing. How did Amelia's story like have something to do with her being a Power Ranger and something happened? Like the way that the Amelia episode breaks down is that Amelia is just doing something with her friends, and then all of a sudden the crux of her story happens while she's just with her friends, just doing something. And then that's what they kind of carry on the whole episode with. What if they would have just had a whole monster that was to be focusing in on that, to just say, well, hey, I want to take down at least one of the Power Rangers, so I want to get, like, Bad Luck Monster, get him out there. It's just, like, that actually would have been like, that's clever. Like, that's clever. But yeah, so, like, let's go into the spoilers of this episode. Like, I think, like, I just gotten a comment thing just recently talking about Jay Borg. I don't mind the character. Like, to me, like, I felt like the character was kind of fitting some kind of, like, thing that always needs to be done in Power Rangers. Like, there's certain kinds of characters that need to be put in shows, and that's what I felt that Jay Borg and Jane Fairfield or Fairview or Jane, the Amelia's boss, like it just kind of feels like, oh, okay, they're the comic relief of this show, and I don't mind them. It's just like they're these kinds of people, and the Power Rangers are these kinds of people, and like, and it just feels like it's just there's so much stuff that seems so familiar to me in the show. I don't know, I just want a drastically different Power Rangers season where I'm just like, whoa, like they reinvented some wheel here. But it just kind of feels like a lot of the same. Don't get me wrong, like there was like that whole battle sequence, like in this show was just like, wow, that was like, it felt random, that battle sequence, but it was also kind of cool. Like the Morphin Masters were just like they had to come up with some kind of way to get Power Rangers in here somehow. But every single season also has to be like hunt for the morphers. In every single Power Ranger season, where everyone has to conveniently come up with some way to find their morpher keys. In every single show, like since Dino Charge? Maybe even, no, like Dino Charge. Like I think was the one that had to like just do that, where like everybody had to just stumble upon their morpher key things, and like they just been going at that for like since whatever. Like I'm not knocking on freaking like writing a show is hard. Writing a show is hard. Give these guys credit because like man, you know how many freaking seasons are of Power Rangers, and like everything is not freaking easy. And plus, a lot of people are just like, "Hey man, I wanted to freaking do Power, like I wanted to do dinosaurs again. Dinosaurs is fun. Plus, a lot of people love Mighty Morphin. Like, go ahead and do dinosaurs. Go ahead." Like I just feel like there's just a lot of just like uh, going down the same well that we get here. So, but let's go into spoilers because I've already been talking about this for 10 odd minutes. So let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that I'm going to spoil this episode. Uh, so evidently we're going to be waiting to eventually get the sixth ranger because that's coming. I know there is one going to be coming, and they're probably going to just plop that character down. Oh no, wait. The sixth ranger usually actually has a backstory and whatever. There's like they probably will dedicate an entire episode to the sixth ranger, but there's still two that. Anyways, just beating down a horse, so to speak. Not the weirdest phrase I know, but anyways. Uh, so let's get into it. What is to go on in this episode? Well, we introduced Boom Tower for whatever reason. Why? He's Goldar of this show, I guess. Like he has a really sweet design. Don't get me wrong. Like that character looks freaking like awesome. He's kind of like a Spartan kind of like build of a character. I like how big he is. He's freaking like massive of a character, muscular, massive of a character. So I like that. I like the design of him, but like it just kind of like he's just there. So moving on. This first episode is to have us introduce a character named Javi. I believe Javi. I'll probably go back into the other episodes and get this correct, but it always takes time with new characters. So, new Black Ranger is to be a musician, which they do nothing with. And so Zato is to compete with this new Black Ranger to be the first one to get a new interview. And so Jane is telling these guys, like, okay, like, you new guy with your harmonica playing, needing of a keytar, which, like, did they do anything with that in the next 3 episodes? Did he get his keytar? No. Is he playing off the side of the road his little keytar to get, like, money? No. They do nothing with this character for 3 episodes. They forget about him once they plop him down. They also had to like explain what a keytar is, like, hey, it's a keyboard and it's guitar. Anyways, so like I guess that was the whole backstory that this guy had to have. I want to get my keytar. Is he gonna get no? Anyway, we'll figure out if he does get it, or if they either like have this character matter in the next X amount of episodes, or if it's all just going to be like, man, I can't wait till get to like next Ranger, and then have like that's another trickling of episodes for you, or they're going to have to do something with Zato and like have that be trickled out for a couple episodes. And like I don't mind it. Like it's just like well-rounded cast, for the love of God. I've been asking for that for I don't know how many reviews. Like, just give me a well-rounded cast that everybody has, like, their moments where, like, everyone is going to have their equal set of like, why are they there? What is going to bring us to feeling like these characters are going to be important after one episode? Oh, they don't? They won't? Oh, that sucks. Anyways, uh, so Javi, you can correct me on the pronunciation of the character. I'm perfectly okay with that because eventually I'll watch more episodes and I'll get it right. And somebody like, you said it right. Just leave it alone. So our new Black Ranger is to go on to the museum and is to do this interview about this orb. Sounds exciting. The new great orb that just came from where? Did they have an episode talking about the orb? I like to think so. So, Boom Tower is to come in to desperately want this orb. And so, eventually, that, of course, leads to Power Rangers having to fight Boom Tower. Boom Tower doesn't get the orb. So what eventually happens in this episode is Zato is to go and do his report that is going to lead us to the new Green Ranger, which is Izzy, which is probably the coolest Power Ranger in the history of Power Rangers, even beating out Tommy. Suck it, Tommy! It's a joke. I make jokes. No, Izzy is cool for this season. But really nobody beats a number of cool Rangers that have been throughout the years. It's a joke. So immediately we have Boom Tower in here for what reason? I don't know, because they end up just dumping in another monster anyways. I'm like, so Boom Tower is just going to be this Goldar character that is just to have another monster just plop in. So, we don't... we don't even get time with Boom Tower. He doesn't fight the Rangers much. We just have monster getting dumped in. And this Dragnarok... this dragon-esque looking character that basically just feels like a dragon / Godzilla, which, thumbs up for that. That was pretty sweet. I like that. I would freaking love, I like dragon, monsters or whatever. I wish that there would have been, if we're gonna have this whole, dinosaurs and knights thing, it would kind of been cool if we would have had a villain who was a dragon instead of this just another knight looking guy. That would have been a justification of just okay, well, it's medieval times all over again where we have knights fighting dragons and the villain is a dragon. But I think they've kind of done that enough also where in Dino Thunder, the villain was some kind of dinosaur-looking character, and they've kind of done stuff similar, so they had to go with Void Knight to just try to be consistent with theme. So, anyways, back into the episode. So, Zato is to interview Izzy, and Zato is to mention that he has some spear technique, not javelin, spear technique, which is going to improve this girl's professional run exponentially. And so Zato shows her the technique, but then Izzy actually does the follow through of it, and then she's like, yeah, great, this is new story of character, great. So now Izzy is willing to do the interview with Zato. All of a sudden we have this girl Lizzie kind of come in, and I don't know if it's right into this episode or maybe it's the next episode. I think it might be the next episode where like Izzy has Lily, that's like the one other athlete. And I was like, it's such a cute episode. Uh, I think that might be the next episode, so let's save that. So, uh, so Izzy is to go on with Zato and do this whole interview, but then the Power Rangers have to leave because Orb thing is happening. It seems that the Rangers are eventually going on fighting Ranger. Uh, Java and Izzy are to eventually go and get this orb, break the orb, and they end up finding out, oh, it's the Power Ranger keys. Like, I thought those were gone forever. Like, yeah, because everything has to be gone forever. So the green and black go and switch into their Power Ranger suits fairly quickly. It seems like they kind of give up in the morphing sequence through these 3 episodes, where they just say like, "Hey, link me into the morphing grid, and then just change me into Power Ranger." Like, I don't want to do that whole morphing sequence. Like, like whatever. Like, so it's like they spent so much time doing it in the first 3 episodes, but then we could have easily just had like, "Hey, like." Communicator, like, link me into the morphing grid because I don't want to morph for the 18th time. That thing is too complicated. I'm going to mess that up. Frickin' just morph me in right now. I don't want to do any morphing sequence. Because they, like, I guess you could say it's like, well, they did that for time. It's like, well, then they should have taken the time to not spend so much of that time in the early episodes morphing, or they should have put up a shorter morphing sequence, because that kind of feels obvious. Maybe they were concerned that someone was going to mess up the morphing sequence. I don't know. But yeah, so we have honestly another monster in this episode that is just kind of meaningless because Green Ranger is the focus. She rips off her skirt. It's like, yeah, I don't wear skirts. And then, like, we just have this fight out, and of course, the New Rangers are like, man, can we get Zords? And Green and Black are just like, well, yeah, but we have to, like, take a whole entire episode for you guys to get yours. And so they're like, oh, that sucks. Because they have to go on this fact-finding mission to find their Zords, because Boom Tower is to have found the Zords, but then eventually Green and Black eventually get their Zords, and it happens. Everything's all great. But yeah, like, just another monster that ends up getting destroyed, Megazorded up, destroyed, taken down. It's all the same rigmarole. So the next episode is to be Izzy with Lizzie in this episode. That's to be the main focus, where Izzy is to do this like marathon or this race, and she's supposed to win. But what eventually ends up happening instead is, one, supposedly Lizzie was supposed to train Izzy, or Lily was supposed to train Izzy, but Lily didn't have time because she had helped out her friend that was to have some issues doing some grocery shopping. And so Izzy is just kind of like upset about Lily, but then eventually she realized what Lily had really done, and it's just like, well, like, oh, I guess that I should have realized, or should have asked her about it, or I should have maybe like asked more questions. But yeah, so we find out that Izzy and Javi are related because they're brother and sister, and their father is the warden, the ranger looking guy. Anyways, so funny enough, Power Rangers guy looks like a ranger. Forest Ranger looks like, but he's probably the sheriff of this town. But I can't tell because it looks like he's like just a combination of things. So Izzy is to go and do this run, and eventually one person ends up getting hurt, and Izzy's just like, oh my god, I'm so behind already, because both Javi and Izzy are to also go and try to find their Zords, while also trying to battle their monster for this episode, uh, which was supposed to be Brine Blast. Just Brine blasted out. Just this goofy looking fish of a character that just fires these things, and I'm just like, what is this? I get it. They have to just like they're putting so much out there, and eventually they just try to cater a monster to an episode, but like, man, do some of these monsters just feel like so random, in all honesty. Like, I'm just like, Brine Blast, what like, the early monsters, I'm like, oh, okay, Medusa, like, that actually makes sense, I think, for the film, the theme. Longhorn, I'm like, okay, I can kind of forgive that, like, it's kind of a rhino character, justified. But then once you get to Brine Blast, you're like, what is even this? What is even this? And I get it, like, Mighty Morphin had some, like, goofy, like, monsters, like porcupine characters, or just a lot of monsters that just ate people for whatever weird reason. But, like, don't we all just miss Eye Guy every once in a while? No? Okay. So, Rangers, like, they're going and, of course, like, finding Zords, beating all the monsters, going and doing their usual Power Ranger stuff. It doesn't feel like anything unique is going on with this story here, because everything is all just Izzy, and how important, like, this whole thing is with her again for seemingly a second story. Like, so Izzy gets like a story arc, kinda, like, at least like 2 episodes worth of something, and we just have a character that has like a whole backstory tied up in 5 minutes. Good work, Power Rangers. Good work. Who cared? Like, man, like, I would have even liked some kind of something with Jane, where you got to get like an in-depth part of like Jane or whatever. Like, you get to see some other side of Jane at least, because like then we wouldn't just write her off as just some like some character that is not quite all intelligent, that luckily she has people underneath her that are to do these unique things that are to get her where they need to go. Like, and we also had the one spot where Javi was supposed to do some, like, what is the hottest burger in Pine Ridge? And Amelia was like, wow, that's a fresh take, because if anything, I had to do a story about what is the best taco. I'm like, so yeah, like, so it's kind of like, is there a tongue-in-cheek kind of joke there where things might be recycled? I don't know. What was that? Anyways, some jokes about some recycling going on. Uh, I don't know. Maybe I just saw something that wasn't there. Um, but I'm having fun with this show. I'm having fun. Like, that's the key thing here. Is it's like, it's a fun show. Like, I freaking like the Green Ranger. I like Izzy. Big thumbs up to Izzy. Like, super cool for this season. There always has to be one Ranger that you're like, oh, I like that one, and I guess that has to be Lizzie, because everybody else is just like, hey, I can't wait to just do ball and chain attack, because or fart attack, or because so Izzy is to go and find this one character who, I guess, twists her ankle, Izzy goes and is trying to like carry this girl back, and all of a sudden there's to be a person on a go-kart who drives by, grabs the girl, and then Izzy finishes her race, and then like Lizzie is there and she's like, yeah, like there with Monica, who has the leg in a cast, and they're like, yeah, you made it, like, but she's like, well, yeah, but I didn't win though, and it's like, well, like that's when I think it should have been just like, well, hey, like it's not all about like, it's about that you finish. It's not about that you beat everyone. Because like right after that, we just have the warden who comes, or the Warren, the Garcia guy. We have him just coming in. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is win. Like, so all that matters is that you just win. Okay, let's. I don't know, like what I know about Power Rangers. What do I know? I know nothing. So moving on. So the next episode is to have an Amelia story that is to tie in her pop from out of nowhere. Hey, Amelia has a pop from out of nowhere that is just a cleaner of skyscrapers and buildings, and so all of a sudden Amelia is to go through this episode and accidentally step underneath a ladder, and then Amelia's like, oh no, I stepped under a ladder, this has to be everyone, this has to be really important. Well, why, Amelia? Why? Because evidently Pop and Amelia are a superstitious bunch, where Pop had mentioned that one time he had done something that was bad luck, and then all of a sudden, like 12 things, like every like life threw a brick at him after that. It was just like, here's this bad thing, here's that bad thing, and but so all the Power Rangers are eventually just teaming up to help Pop clean up this building, because supposedly he assumes that there's only 2 stories of this thing, but there's 3 stories and whatever. So, like, we have this kind of goofy, like, older character, which, like, it was kind of nice. Like it feels like they were trying to do something different here, but the story of which just kind of, like feels like they needed to focus on one character here, because like Amelia like has already had some time, but like I guess the whole superstition thing could also like could technically, I guess, tie into like the whole ghost thing and the whole psychic thing with her and her now being superstitious. Like, I think that could have some kind of connection together, but I'm just not quite like. It feels just like a bunch of random stuff. Just kind of just like, hey man, we wanted to do this in an episode. And like, let's try to just tie Amelia into it. Because I guess this kind of thing can all be connected. So anyways, so Amelia is to have bad luck, and she gets bad luck so much so that she ends up going and taking on the monster of the week all by her lonesome, which is Smash Stone, which there was something cool about this design. There was something that like there was something there, but I like, you know what, monsters would tend to have like these cool things about them and not feel like completely random, but like the last 2 monsters just felt like these random bags of things that were just put out there, in all honesty. But it's hard to do a weekly show. It's hard. Like, give them props. Give them mad props. It's freaking hard to do a show. Freaking, how long has this been going on for? there has to always be like me whining and complaining about like, well, this monster just like isn't up to my standards. You know how hard it is to do, like, people don't like how much they have to like crazily take forever to make these monsters too. Like, I'm like, that's the whole thing about it. Like, I'm sure they had so many like crazy amounts of rough drafts for everything. And so then eventually they just went and just did this. Cause it's just like, man, like we had so many different sketches, so like I'm sure, cause like from what I like saw from Hyperforce, like some video about Hyperforce, where like they just have a guy that just does helmets. Like for like Power Rangers, it's like that's how far they have to like break everything down to just be like, there's just a guy that just does helmets. Like, so there's probably a monster guy. There's probably a like there's like a minute breakdown of every little thing, where like if it just seems like a random bag of things, that's why, because like there's people that just build these things and then like, hey, we'll grab this one for this episode. Since this one's done the quickest, we're putting this out there for that episode. Excuse me, for that episode. Excuse me. Um, any number of these could have probably been like the main villain of the main villains of the show, but then eventually they just like, this one's done quickest, put it out there. But yeah, so Smash Stone. So Smash Stone goes against the Pink Ranger, and the Pink Ranger is getting clocked so badly that she unmorphs. Doom Tower goes and steals, or Boom Tower ends up stealing her morpher, so that way he can get back into Dino Henge to try and get some more of that sweet, delicious Sporex, because we have to continue that story. But coincidentally, since Solon is to build Amelia her pink morpher again, Amelia is in the Dino Henge because, like, she's not quite sure if she should ever be a Power Ranger again, kind of thing, where she's just like, everything has just gone so bad lately that I think I just really need to just, like, not do anything right now. Like, I think I'm just gonna, like, affect the rest of the Rangers, and I'm gonna just, my bad luck is gonna affect what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. So, all of a sudden, Boom Tower arrives in Dino Henge, and so Solon is just like, well, I'm going to be the one that's just going to take you down, Boom Tower, believe me. But then Amelia is just like, oh, this is my story, this is my episode. Like, you know what? I want Solon to just prove, like, I want them to prove that this character actually means something. I want like Solon to just do one thing besides the whole like unfreezing act that he did in one episode, or Solon did in one episode. Like, I want like this character to prove its worth. Just take down Boom Tower, Solon, and just be like, yeah, like, look what I did. But no. Amelia has to go and get her morpher, and I believe do it the correct way. And so Amelia morphs to take down Boom Tower, and they really have to like emphasis on the fact that, like, man, Amelia, you being here was really lucky. Like, to really just tell that like the tides are turning, that Amelia with her new morpher is the breaking of the bad luck that she had. And so now Amelia is to go off once Boom Tower had lost the other morpher and the older morpher had broke. And so now Boom Tower is out of Dino Henge. Amelia is to go back with the Rangers, take down Smash Stone. Like, I guess they couldn't, like, I guess technically, like, Stonehenge and, like, that kind of has, like, an old thing to it, so I don't know. But what ends up happening when eventually they go to Megazord is Amelia is to figure out, like, hey, I can use my luck to an advantage. And so all of a sudden, she's like hitting a part of these buildings that has this like domino effect that all of a sudden is to take out Smash Stone's biggest weapon. And like that's all that matters to them in the real part of the thing. So like basically there's like episodes that always have to focus now on like, hey, we gotta figure out how to uh shut down this monster's weapon kind of thing. And that basically makes this monster like a mood point thing to eventually just take him out and just take him down and whatever. Uh, but yeah, so Power Rangers go back with Pop Pop, and Pop Pop is just like, hey, you kids are really useful. I'm not going to pay you $1 or a dime, but hey, thanks for all you guys just just coming in and helping me out because you volunteered, right? Like you're not gonna get a check after this, right? I'm not gonna pay any of you people, correct? You just did this in the goodwill of your heart, right? So yeah, so what ends up happening after this is coincidentally we have Ollie because Ollie is, I guess, going to be technically the story boyfriend of Amelia. So anything that has to happen with Amelia, they finally have to do something with Ollie because it seems like bizarrely they're going to connect these characters, but it probably won't actually be a love interest thing because it's Power Rangers now and they don't do that kind of thing. So, but yeah, so Amelia is still talking about superstition, and so Ollie ends up going and accidentally breaking this side mirror of this car, and they're like, "Oh, bad luck on you, Ollie!" And so all of a sudden, Ollie is to stumble and fumble around. He accidentally has this bucket that ends up falling onto his head, and then all of a sudden we have stunt double, I'm sure, doing all this like acts and whatever, and he ends up just falling and splashing and all this all these wires end up all over Ollie, and then we just have eventually his like bucket head coming off, and everybody's like ha ha ha, ha. And now he's like, yeah, I'm still not gonna believe in superstition. Episode ends. But yeah, like I kind of quickly went through a lot of these episodes just because like without a certain kind of story, it's just kind of feels like there's a lot Power Rangers stuff going on. Then it just feels like there's a strategy, or there's like there has to be something more of just like we're gonna have the Power Rangers just easily take this and like no, they have to have like some new part of their weapon, or they have to like there's always some new thing that they have to introduce. And I'm just like, man, are we going to be doing that through every single one of the episodes here on out? That there's like some new thing to introduce where they're just going to continue to just plop all this stuff out? Because like they focused on one weapon on one episode, but now it's like, but no, we have to do this, and now we have to do that. I'm like, whew! All right. So yeah, so that's my review of Power Rangers Dino Fury, episodes 4 through 6. Yeah, Izzy is the best out of this season so far, and it's funny because like she's been only a couple of episodes. Like it feels like the fresh new thing is the only thing that really feels important. Because it's like, oh, we've done this before, we've done that. Well, it was, like, we have Zato who ends up having to be like cringe because he's trying to figure out like the new cool thing to do, where he's like, and it's obvious that like People don't like that, but like Zato just keeps going at with that, where he's just like, I'm trying to learn. But anyways, yeah. So I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.